Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. I'm Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark. And like you, I'm a professional speaker and I love listening to Speakernomics. Speakernomics is a professional speaker show that will help you thrive and grow speaking business so you too can change the world, one keynote session workshop and speech at a time. And on this episode, we welcome Simon T. Bailey. Don't know Simon? Well, Simon is a CSP, CPAE Hall of Fame keynote speaker, coach, and author, and the world-leading expert on brilliance. Simon, welcome to Speakernomics. What does Simon say? How are you today?
Good to be with you, Shark. Hello to everyone. What
Absolutely.
an honor.
Now, to all my speaking friends, what are you doing to be a brilliant speaker with your influence? Inherent brilliance thrives within every person, but does it within you as a speaker? Are you innovating in those environments to amplify your brilliance? Are you taking this and letting it ripple across industries, cultures, and borders? It's time to be resilient, friends. Be brilliant and multiply those speaking gigs. And before we jump in, make sure to go to Speakernomics.com. That is where you can find the tips, insights, and knowledge to help you become a better speaker, build a better business, and get paid to speak. Simon, let's dive in. Number one, tell us, what does amplifying your brilliance, and that being the new level of influence, mean to you and your speaking business?
It's all about really holding your ground but looking even beyond that to say, how do I expand it? How do I show up in the world to add value to every audience, every customer by really producing something that is memorable, that engages the head, the heart, and the hands? I think amplifying is not just about you, but it's everyone you connect with, and how do you amplify them? And together, it's in the collective, in that circle of influence where you are talked about and remembered long after the applause stops.
How do you go about doing that on a daily basis, just in what you do?
I think, first of all, starting with meditation. One of the things I encourage audiences to do is to take your meds. Meds is an acronym that stands for meditate, exercise, diet, and sleep. So before I get on a Zoom call, before I hit the stage, before I write a post, I'm doing my internal work to ensure that I'm in a safe place, because, when you do show up, you are transferring energy. So doing that work when no one is looking. I think the other thing is being intentional to reflect. And obviously that's talked about and has been talked about for thousands of years, but certainly being intentional about reflection. One of the things that I learned from Brian Tracy, very simple exercise: what went well, what didn't go well, and what's the next step that you are going to do to improve it the next time around. So in that reflection, looking at those three questions, thank you, Brian Tracy, for your brilliance in really holding yourself accountable.
I think Brian's written up to like 200 or 300 books by now. So it's about one a week for him. So you've built a powerful speaking brand over the years. You're a Hall of Fame speaker. What was the turning point that you took from being just another speaker to a true thought leader? And I think in particular, you talk about being an expert in brilliance, and you also have the research to back it up. But there's the speaker that occasionally talks about brilliant and brilliance as opposed to the thought leader that talks about it. How did you make that turning point that put you in that thought lane?
I think the turning point for me, and John Mason in his book, An Enemy Called Average, says most people are born originals but die copies. And my speaking business up until that time, Shark, I was at best an annoying echo instead of an original voice, which is a phrase that I coined back in 2007 when I was blessed to grace the main stage. So up until that point, I was basically mimicking Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Les Brown, and I really hadn't found my voice. And what I realized, when you find your spark, you find your joy. When you find your joy, you find your voice. When you find your voice, you find your freedom. And the freedom that I found was embracing my faults, my mistakes, my failure. When I left Disney and once I was out on my own, how did I grow and really kind of look back at that Disney experience as to what worked well and where did I drop the ball? When did I stop sniffing the pixie dust and really wake up to understand that my voice was all that mattered when it was all said and done. So that became the shift. And it's in that shift when everything began to align because I was aligned from the inside out and was not just mimicking everyone else and regurgitating others. So as a result, in 22 years of doing this work since leaving Disney, I've reinvented 6 times. And the sixth reinvention was because of Jason Dorsey, an NSA member. And Jason said, do you want to be a thought leader that certainly has an opinion, or do you want to be a researcher that can truly back up what you are saying? So that immersed us on a quest to making a pretty significant investment in the research, best decision ever because it stretched me. And it really invited me to anchor and ground what I have been writing and talking about for 20 years. So hence we created The State of Working America Thriving in Resilience and Brilliance is our white paper, executive summary, and our research that has really taken us into another stratosphere.
What year was that you came out with, that you made that research twist?
2024 is when we launched it, but it started in 2023.
So how has that research since then help elevate your game to getting more gigs, having those conversations with clients who want to bring you in now because of your research, as opposed to just say the Simon speaker brand? Not that anything was wrong with that, but now when it's with the added research, what's the conversations like and the timelines now to get booked because they want to hear more about that?
Sure. Well, one of the first things that we notice is the higher your fee, the higher the decision tree is. So now we are talking generally at the VP level and above because they want to hear about the data. They want to hear about the research. And then how does the research come alongside in solving their problems? So we're having a different conversation. I just had a call the other day with a gentleman who heard the research and he is slated for a CEO role of a Fortune 1000 company and wanted some coaching around how does he step into that? So moving from a CMO role to a CEO role. So what I realized, the research allowed me to have that conversation with him. And I was not just a guy that had blog posts espousing my opinions, but I can say, here's what the data is saying to us, and here's something to think about. So number one, better fee. Number two, different conversations with key influencers that are truly writing the check. And I think the third thing is it's allowed us to almost earn a mini MBA on steroids when we go into an organization. And yes, we have our research, but then we start to see how it shows up and what they're going to do with what we are sharing at a leadership level. And then they start to give us feedback as to here's what's working, here's what's not working, so that we can constantly tweak and make our content more relevant to where they're going in the future.
It's fantastic. So looking back over your career, you've talked some about the mistakes you've made before we even got started. What were the things that you'd love to tell your earlier self as to how you become Simon T. Bailey, the Hall of Fame speaker, even more quickly?
Number one, stop chasing stages. The more you chase stages, the more they escape your grasp. Number two, stop trying to overwhelm the speaker bureaus with how wonderful you are. If you're really good on stage and you take food out of their mouth, they will call you directly because they're losing business to you. It's counterintuitive. No one told me that out the gate. And I spent a lot of money, this is back in the day, on VHS tapes, sending it to them, CDs, sending it to them, DVDs, sending it to them. And it was ending up in file 13 because at some level, they were saying, bless his heart. He doesn't know how the game is really played. And then probably the third thing is to stop taking myself so serious, that I was, the end all be all. So what? Who cares? Because after the applause stopped, I'm the guy that's standing in the drive-through line without a car to get food. So having intellectual humility intentionally, where you don't get over your skis and you remember that you're just a dime a dozen. They're going to have another speaker next year on the new program and never, ever become addicted to applause because it is shallow. How do you begin to understand the deeper meaning of this work? One quick story. I was speaking at the Gaylord Opryland a couple of years ago, and the client wanted me to stand on the step and repeat, take photos, blah, blah, blah. And a guy comes up to me, bawling. He says, I listened to you this morning and I've been diagnosed with a certain disease and I haven't told my family. You gave me permission to share with my family. He and I turned away from the step and repeat. He was bawling, I was bawling. It was a moment. Then right after him, a lady came up to me, and I get chills just thinking about this. She said, I was in my room and I was not coming down because I was going to commit suicide. Hard stop. And I came down and I heard your keynote and I decided that I want to live. Shark, that's the work. That's the work. That's why I quit Disney and cashed in my entire 401k with significant Disney stock, took out a line of credit on the house, turned down 4 jobs, threw caution to the wind, because little did I know, 20 years later, because of the sacrifice, one person said they wanted to live. I was done. I was through. I was like, that's it. That's why I do this work. And when we remember it's about lives and not us, everything shifts in the business.
Now for a little speaking trivia. What famous speaker once said this about resilience and perseverance? When life knocks you down, try to land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. Let your reason get you back up. Back with the answer in just a moment. Before we jump back to the show, here's a moment with speaker and NSA member, Sarah Ohanneson. Sarah, what does being part of NSA mean to you and is growing your speaking business?
It's been everything for my speaking business. So I got involved with NSA very early on in my speaking career because I saw the potential of what this organization can mean to people. And so I just got involved. I met people, I networked, I attended the events. I'm a sponge. I absorb just as much information as I can. And I think the key is that I implement what I learn from these events. And when I think back to how did I think about getting in a speaking event, I trace it back and I think, well, that's because of what I learned at NSA, or that's because of someone I met through NSA.
And here's the answer. The famous speaker who said, when life knocks you down, try to land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. Let your reason get you back up, was none other than Les Brown. And now, back to the show. What are you going to be speaking about at Influence this year?
Oh my goodness. Amplify Brilliance, the next frontier of influence.
So a question I want to ask you from a previous guest is, what is the real reason that you wanted to be a speaker? Be really honest with the reason.
Because I got fired from Disney. All right. Yeah, gone. We're home, boys and girls. Welcome to Disney World. So let's just say I fired myself because I heard the footsteps coming and they were not singing Shark. It's a small world after all. So, at 34 years of age, I had to launch out and figure it out. Country was going to war with Iraq for the second time. Corporations were laying off by the hundreds of thousands. And I think Disney was inviting me to find my happiness elsewhere. So that's how I truly landed in becoming a speaker.
Fantastic. So what is a question that you would like to ask a future guest on this show?
So we've often heard, and forgive me for not giving proper credit to the person who established this idea, but the question is, what are you doing with your dash? So you look at however old you were born a certain year, dash, as the thought leader shared with us, and you expire. What will be the meaning of your dash?
It's fantastic. All right, then let's do a quick recap based on Simon's brilliant advice. Number 1, how do you amplify your brilliance? It's going beyond and at every touch point in collective. And he said, take your meds, meditate, exercise, diet, and sleep. show up and transfer great energy. Number 2, turning point is don't be a copy or an echo, be an original voice. You're a thought leader. Don't mimic everyone else. Don't Google it. Create your own. Find your spark, your joy, your voice, your freedom. Embrace all to find your own you. Number 3, the research data may help you have a different conversation. That may change some fee rolls in a good way, the research fee with true influencers in that space. But now you see how it shows up at a leadership level. Here's what's working and what's not. Number 4, stop chasing stages. Stop trying to overwhelm speaker bureaus. Be amazing on stage because you are amazing and taking stages away from them. Stop taking yourself as well so seriously. Simon, I'm looking forward to seeing you at Influence. Any last closing thoughts before we speak ourselves off this stage?
Remember, wherever you show up as a speaker, in the words of David Brooks, that says the emotional health of the world is shattering based on his research. I say, how do you show up and hug people with your words every single day in every way?
Amen. Friends, make sure to join us at Speakernomics.com and let your voice be heard. I am Kenneth Kinney, your host of the National Speakers Association's podcast, Speakernomics, and this has been another fantastic episode of the show. Thank you, Simon, for your service to NSA and for lending your voice to the show. And everyone listening, thank you for the privilege of your time. And remember, Speakernomics is a podcast where you'll learn to speak, get paid, repeat.